Welcome, everyone. DTLW Podcast, LinkedIn version. And I am so happy that you are all with us. And today I'm speaking with a good friend, Ashkan Tajwer, all the way from Australia. Now, last year, Ashkan and I had the incredible opportunity to film over 50 episodes of the Being Framework Leadership Series, which we enjoyed. And it's out there, folks. Go and see that. Go and subscribe. Go and get in that series. And through those conversations, we explored what it really means to lead from the inside out. And that's very important. And who we're being shapes everything. And as we create as leaders, right? And so now I am excited to sit down with Ashkan again to talk about his new book, and we were talking about the books behind him and how it all started with the Being book. That Being book was transformational to me. And now he has created this book called Sustainabilism and the groundbreaking model that comes with it, the Authentic Sustainability Framework, or ASF. Ashkan, after all the work we did exploring leadership through the Being framework, what makes this new book and framework such an important next step?
Oh, so first of all, it's wonderful to have me here. With you. It's quite exciting after quite a while. As you said, like we did this series on leadership, and now here we are talking about sustainability. Um, so where to start, really? First of all, let's make it clear when we talk about sustainabilism, the title of the book, that's chosen in a kind of ironic way. It's not a new ism. That's the last thing that we need in our era, I would believe. I believe, and it is actually it starts with a critique of this buzzword of sustainability. Yeah,
Right.
so mostly when we talk about sustainability in and nowadays, it is referring to um, ecology or of environment or environmental sustainability.
Right.
But sustainability by itself is way beyond that. We're talking about any system. We're talking about this axiomatic pattern that any system, no matter it's like an environment or a man-made system, a manufactured or invented system would have. So we're talking about that. So ism at the end of sustainabilism is kind of ironic. I mainly use that to refer to a kind of prescribed, performative, scripted version of sustainability, which is quite common these days, a compliance list, and then you're going to tick the boxes and everything. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about this mandated way to enforce sustainability, but we're talking about authentic sustainability as opposed to that. So that's just like to start. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned that when people first hear the word sustainabilism or sustainability, their mind immediately does go to the environment, recycling, and all those other things. But you're actually pointing to something much deeper, something about human sustainability and the systems that we lead. So let's, you clear that pretty good. So, what does sustainability really mean in this context that you're bringing?
Yeah, see, there is this common misconception that if you're a brilliant leader, robust, knowledgeable, experienced, um, you're going to be building very good systems. Yeah. So let's say, for example, if you're an entrepreneur and you want to create um, profitability, you want to serve people through your products and services, obviously, you want to have sustainable system. Yeah. So you want a system that people can want to join, you can acquire talent, which is a big thing now, like talent acquisition these days in different parts of the world. So you want to attract them, and so you want to be attractive genuinely. And you can't be if you don't have sustainable systems being created. People so want to work in your organization. You want to be responsible when it comes to your shareholders. You want to generate revenue in a sustainable manner. You want to um, um, generate profit, or basically whatever you want in that setting. Similarly, like if you're running an NGO, if you are if you are in the government, so you want to build sustainable policies, yeah. So any of these systems that we participate in, or well, let's just start from there. The certain systems that we demand, yeah, and how we are or how we're being leads us to what kind of system we may demand. Let's just start there. And then we are the one who design these systems, implement these systems, um, and sustain or maintain these systems and refine these systems. And at the end, like we participate in it. So even if you don't think that you are a system designer or you're not a leader of organization or a politician, you still are participating, whether you're conscious or not conscious about it, in sustainability of that system. So a lot of times you see that individuals may whinge or complain about how things are in the economy, the purchase power, inflation, things like that, or for example, how the politicians are and everything, as they may say. So the thing is, you are participating in it way more than what you may think. Yeah. So that's why we talk about participative leadership in this book as well. Now, when we're therefore talking about sustainability, we're talking about creating systems that they can endure, they can evolve, and they can transform as it's required. And we cannot do that unless we go back and look inward and see if you are having healthy relationships with certain qualities that are being discussed in this book in a healthy manner. Because at the end of the day, this we can build as sustainable a systems as we are, you know. So we are the designers of most of these systems we deal with, and the book encourages us to actually look inward and look into all those qualities like intention, trust, sovereignty, patience and tolerance, and amongst others. So basically that's one of the things that the book does. So when we talk about sustainability, we're talking about any system. uh, this system can be your family, it can be your partly like your mental health, it can be a market, it can be an organization, economy, or politics. So basically, this is designed in a general way so that it can apply to all different systems that we design, participate, build, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
And I love that as you're describing it, I see myself, right?
Yeah.
I have certain training, certain developments, exposures, experiences, all these things that make me. And there are things that I do that may not be sustainable, right?
Yeah.
And it's a challenge for me to
Yeah.
be able to get to the point where, as a leader in a particular thing, that I get the ability to have sustainability in my actions, because being a leader individually is not enough. And so I love how you frame this, because a lot of leaders believe that if they just work harder, stay stronger, or push through, they'll eventually reach success. But what we're seeing today is that personal effort alone often leads to burnout,
Oh,
and
yeah.
not sustainability. So it's
Yeah.
not enough to simply be a strong individual leader. There's something about how we're connected to the systems around us. So why
Yeah.
does being a strong, capable leader still lead to burnout or stagnation?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I can clearly see what you say, and that basically that was part of the reason I started working in this body of work. Um, so the misconception that I brought it up, and then now you're talking about it. Yes, definitely, we're seeing it quite evidently that is leading to burnout. There's so much demand on leaders, and perhaps the leaders would put so much expectations on themselves, and while a lot of people are quite concerned, like at that level, that the concern around bankruptcy, or if on the material end they may be bankrupted in a way. I think that we need to also be concerned about mental bankruptcy. It's like a lot of these leaders, they keep push through, including myself to some degree. I can fully resonate with that. You push through, you deal with like lots of broken promises and everything, and you want to carry the burden yourself. And you may even be glorified for making those kind of sacrifices, putting everything at the line. But it's not going to sustain.
Mm.
Your health is not. You need to be healthy. You need to be alive to keep going with
Right.
the fulfillment of your vision and everything. So even if you're willing as a leader to put 24/7, sacrifice everything, sacrifice family, sacrifice personal life, everything, in order for you to really push through things, at some point reality is going to hit and go, oh, you can't keep going like this. And the systems that you have created, organizations, like whatever basically you've created, or family, it can get to this stage that the system cannot carry its own burden, or it's
Mm.
going to be complete burden. And that's exactly why we need to be proactive, and before we get to that entrenchment, I call it in the book, we actually address it. We address all of these shadows, all of these distortions, basically, in the way that we go about things. We need to address them, and the book provides the vocabulary so that you can articulate all these that I just mentioned, contextualized in what matters to you, the system that you are designing, building, or participating. And then it puts forward series of tools and solutions practically so that you can address them, minimize the damages, and maximize the probability of you being able to create those systems that they can endure over time. Um, so, I mean, this is actually quite this can quite be emotional for me, like, because like we work with lots of coaches, we train coaches in our organization, and this is not just a pure intellectual body work. I'm not sitting here intellectualizing the word and all
Right.
in it. um in the back of my mind, yes, like I go through all of these philosophical conversations, technical conversations, creating ontological models and tools, but at the end of the day, they're only valuable to me if they can address some real world problems that we're dealing with. And one of the biggest one, as we just mentioned, is like the burnout of leaders, and the fact that we see these systems are not being they're creating a lot of dysfunction, and and we go to the root of that, and then we see that, oh, it's not just that you're not competent as a leader, you're not brilliant as a leader, but mainly is because you're surrounded by all of these systems that are entrenching you. Now, a big part of this system is what you have tremendous amount of influence over. And there are other systems that you cannot fully influence or directly, but there are lots of these systems that you are generator of them. You actually have tremendous amount of influence over them, and one of which is to cultivate leadership, so leadership development. And that's why I go back to being, and we go back to like the qualities that people have, because if you cannot replicate those kind of, I mean, brilliance, I mean, that the kind of brilliance that we may talk about to a degree, then the systems that you have created are going to be so dependent on you. The moment that you're not there or you can't be available, they're going to collapse. They're going to go backward, uh, and uh, and that's quite important for leaders to be able to develop leadership. And again, not only this book, but also the rest of body of work that I've created, and you've mentioned being, it is there to serve us create that kind of culture, and support leaders to develop leaders, and leadership, so that we can create the manifestation of that basically will become is more sustainable systems. Yeah.
Now, do you think that when things are unsustainable, that they
Mm.
reflect anything on how the leader is, how they're being?
Not just the leader. Obviously, the leader is important, or the leadership team is very important. But the system, the dysfunction or the functionality of the systems, are in one way or another are the reflection of how we are being. Because see, when I talk about systems, let's make this quite clear. When we talk about systems, I'm not talking about technology. I'm not talking only
Right.
about like processes and organizational chart. Like basically, when we're talking about systems, we're talking about a set of interconnected parts that they have influence over each other. They have interactions with each other towards a particular pattern or purpose or meaning or outcome. Yeah, so that's basically what we mean when we say system. Now some of these systems are deliberately designed, consciously designed, and some of these systems are unconsciously evolving. Now, so that's what I mean when I say system. We're not talking about technology or
Right.
organizational chart. So everyone, no one can sit there and go, oh, like I don't want system thinking. I don't want to have anything to do with systems. No, if you are a citizen, you're dealing with economics. Dealing with the economy as a system. You're dealing with basically your purchase power and a big part of quality of your life has to do with that system you are participating in. If you are a citizen, you are participating in the political system, even if you claim that, oh, I'm not a very political person, or maybe, but you still have a vote and you still have um, um, a direct influence over how that system is going. So we're not just talking about leaders, but we're talking about all human beings. Now, obviously, leaders, the person who's occupying a position of leadership, um, um, he, there's this inherent responsibility that you have subscribed into. So you go, yeah, like I am the leader. Therefore, if you don't support others and develop leadership in others, then who else should? You know. So therefore, yes, it becomes the responsibility of the leader in a way. But at the end of the day, we're talking about like all of these systems that we have created are the reflections of how we are collectively. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Very powerful insight, at the relationship of who we are and how we're being to the ability for something to be sustainable. Now, you speak about, uh, or you've actually mapped the relationships in your model, something that you call UOSI, Unified Ontology of Systematic Integrity, which outlines 16 human qualities behind both integrity and disintegration, right? Disintegration,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
you say it.
Yeah.
So, if systems break down because of these human patterns, what are some of the signs that leaders can look for in themselves uh, to help?
Hmm. Well, let me elaborate a bit more on that and what you just brought up. So the UOSI, or Unified Ontology of Systemic Integrity, I mean the technical term for it is quite mouthful, but at the end of the day, it's a very, very simple concept to grasp. Basically, what we're talking about is any system, it has a current state, yeah, and this current state is not static. And that's a very important thing to pay a lot of attention to. Things are continuously changing. The state of any system is continuously changing. And this linear idea that, okay, so the system is not working, is disintegrating, or is not functional, and let's go and set a target, and then we're going to reach this integrity state. where every element in that system is working so perfectly or relatively in an optimal level, as if like it's a kind of a one-off thing and linear. We go there and then we land. We're going to live happily ever after. So that's not how it works. And then because the nature of systems is dynamic, continuously changing. And when we talk about ideals like integrity, similar to mastery, similar to authenticity, these are asymptotic ideals or horizontal values. In a way, we're talking about this idea of this quality is there, but this quality is never to be attained fully in an absolute form. Yeah. So when we say integrity of a system, meaning that the constituent parts, the element within that systems are working at relatively um, 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 optimal level, it's not an absolute form. So it is more like the North Star that you go towards. Yeah, so it's guiding your way, but it's not the state that you're going to reside there. Now, if we start from this philosophical um, um, ground, then we need to accept that we are continuously in this transition. Yeah, so we transit towards integrity, or sometimes we tilt towards disintegration. Now I used a kind of limnescate symbol, like an infinity symbol, to show that, like like we have two spheres, one here and one here, disintegration and integrity. So we when we observe the system, we see that we continuously transit from one to another. Now, so in the disintegration sphere, I created a quote pattern or quote quality. And I don't want to go to the details of everything. Obviously, we don't have the time
Yeah.
here. But let me just like cover one. There's four spheres, but I'm just like mentioning two of them now. And only I want to go through just one, which is the disintegration sphere. See, one of the qualities is being looked into in this UOSI is shadow,
Mm.
shadows, uh, any distortion. So I'm using this word in a very expansive way. Yeah. So basically, any misconception, any misunderstanding that we have, any anywhere that we deliberately, sometimes deliberately, or unintentionally, sometimes we are ignoring it. We're neglecting it. Yeah. So if these shadows are not being addressed first inward, and you were talking about the symptoms, yeah. So if we ignore these symptoms, which we can talk about the symptoms, if you have time. So if we ignore these symptoms, if we ignore these shadows, and we don't address them right away, they're going to lead to, very likely, they're going to lead to this external condition that I refer to as the second quality, misery. And misery here is not used in a conventional sense, where it's a cluster word for any like trivial discomfort, all the way to difficulties, adversities, catastrophes, or crisis. So it's a condition that it's going to be, we are going to be led to. Then, if these external conditions are not being addressed as well, um, um, we're going to start experiencing those miseries as suffering. So, suffering is not an external condition, but it's our experience of that condition that we're talking about, the misery. So, suffering is our phenomenological pattern or our experience of those external conditions that we have created. Let's say, for example, inflation. Yeah. So inflation is caused, and now everyone is experiencing that. Yeah. And it can create suffering, and people experience suffering quite differently. It's very subjective. The same misery can lead a person really suffer so much, and then for some others are not going to be as harsh. Now, here's the thing. So we talked about three of the four, shadows, misery, and then suffering. Now, here's the thing. When misery is being reinforced continuously, and the experience of suffering is self-sustaining, we're going to be pushed into this fourth quality, which I refer to as entrenchment. You're going to be entrenched, entrapped. You're going to feel there's no way out. The system is at the verge of breaking down. Now, this disintegration and collapse in a marriage, let's say, a traditional marriage, it can be divorce, fragmented families, fractures in like the mental health of people involved, wounds. It can basically show itself in the economy as recession, collapse of the economy, depression. In a person, mental health, it can lead to anxiety disorders and depression and so many different things. Then you're going to be so reliant on external factors to just keep yourself going with basic things in life, like being on prescription of ketamine and fluoxetine and all of that. In politics or the state government, or I mean like state or federal governments of countries, it can lead to revolutions. It can lead to civil wars and things like that. So, and between the two countries, it can lead to war. Okay. So basically, when we're talking about disintegration from mental health of an individual to a family to a team to an organization, like organizations go through liquidation and they're gone. The brands, they say goodbye and then they're no more. So everyone can relate to this pattern from shadow, um, misery, suffering, and entrenchment in a way. So now, what we're talking about in the book, we're saying that there's these qualities in disintegration. There's certain qualities in integrity sphere, intention, trust, sovereignty, and being. Like our internal qualities like commitment, like assertiveness, courage, authenticity, and so on and so forth. And then what we bring up, then we go, wait a moment. As a leader, not only you want to be paying attention to these qualities and develop healthy relationship with them, but a third sphere is coming up here, like in that UOSI, in that pattern. Imagine that if we have this lemniscate or the infinity sign as a twisted rope, yeah? If you loosen it up a little bit, a third hole is going to be created in the middle. So that's a kind of visual that I use in the book. And that I call it modulation sphere. Now, modulation, again, mouthful, but I'm pretty sure everyone can resonate with that. Basically, we said that these systems are in constant transition, yeah, and they're not static. Now, modulation is an intentional transition. So basically, as a leader, you make yourself aware intentionally, deliberately, you make yourself aware of these transitions, you observe and you see. You know where, for example, your cell system is not working. You know that, for example, certain things, culture in the organization is collapsing, or the quality of your product is declining, or things like that. You have this tracking mechanism and willingness to see with vulnerability, not putting the head in the sand. So, and then you go through modulation or regulation to adjust the balance of this system. If it's going towards disintegration, you're going to pull it back. So when we talk about modulation sphere in the middle, we talk about four very key qualities. I just like name them. We don't go through the depth of them. So we talk about patience. We talk about healthy relationship with adaptability, tolerance, and surrender. Like there are times that the problem is not going to be solved through engineering, and you need to surrender, and not everyone has a relatively healthy relationship with that. So, and there's one more sphere which is overarching, which we don't necessarily need to talk about it, but yes. So when we talk about UOSI, your unified ontology of systemic integrity, we're talking about these qualities that are quite crucial, I found, and through this observation study what I've done, and that are quite important for us to address them, and that's a big part of the book. Yeah.
Yeah, very important. And you mentioned those four pieces. Surrender. My goodness, that
Mm,
is a hard thing to do in a world where we are always constantly pushing. Go
yeah.
get it. Don't give up.
Mm,
Don't never surrender. You like,
mm,
Oh, I have to surrender to get this thing going. And I'll tell you, Ashkan, one time in my life
Yeah,
where things looked so chaotic,
yeah,
things, my system was about to be disintegrated. And
mm,
it was surrender that
mm,
saved my system.
yes,
Eh,
yes,
Without a doubt, it was surrender that
yeah,
saved this ecosystem called my house. And had I not, I
mm,
think that these things that I'm looking at now and my family would have totally been gone.
yeah,
And so it's important to
yeah. I mean,
know.
whoever lived long enough, they have experienced some level of this, I believe. And the thing is, some of us, we pay attention through authentic awareness, a willingness to actually see. And some of us may not, like we may choose to complain and whinge and point fingers and everything. But yeah, so um, and I think that this is leading me to also talk about this thing that, see, when we talk about integrity disintegration, um, particularly disintegration, so I don't use the term in a negative sense. So yes, like we do our best as leaders to build sustainable systems, and that's basically what's being discussed in the book. But the thing is, disintegration is not inherently bad or negative,
Right.
and sometimes you do your best to hold the system going, have the system going in a sustainable manner, and sometimes you get to that entrenchment, as we discussed, and the system is going to collapse, and that's okay, you know. So we talk about also emergent qualities, emergent forces in the book, which is they emerge from the interplay of those 16 core qualities, which I call them causal forces. And sometimes you need decay to have a space for renewal. And that's the thing, you know, like if you want to have a system regenerate, be regenerative, and sometimes that round of system needs to collapse, and it needs to open a space for renewal. And that's also very important. Like we see it, like for example, with a typical so-called capitalist system, if an organization, if a company is a commercial company, let's say for example, car manufacturer, if they're not producing good enough um, mm, product, they can compete in a healthy way, and people are not voluntarily voting them in. Consumers and customers are not voting them in by not buying the products and everything. And it happened throughout the history, especially in the US. Like
Mhm.
we can mention, like for example, what has happened with General Motors at some point. So we see that sometimes politicians jump in for various different reasons, or jobs not to be lost, or things like that, and then they bail them out. They try to inject funds and things like that to have the system going. I mean, I don't say it's wrong. What I'm trying to say is sometimes we need to let certain systems go down if um, you know they they're not functioning, and they're not fixable. And there are systems that are not fixable, and they need to go away and then leave space for renewal, as we said. So what I wanted to say is, like, when we say integration, disintegration, we don't inherently find it negative or bad. Yeah.
Yeah, some things have disintegrated, and greater things have come from it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. It's not a bad or
Yeah.
something in that light. Now, let's talk about this new framework, the authentic sustainability framework, and how it helps leaders create systems that actually last. Like you said, this model was developed by observing sustainable leaders in action, and that it identified the 16 key qualities across four spheres. And I remember my own experience with the being profile.
Yeah.
And I've told you this many times. On the moment that you invited me to do that profile,
Mhm.
the eye-opening experience that I had. To see myself through that lens,
Yeah.
it was just even till today. I'll tell people that it was life changing, right? So I'm really curious about the next evolution of that in this sustainability profile.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, and so you mentioned like observing sustainable leaders. As a matter of fact, we actually looked into more, way more unsustainable leaders, or basically the roots of unsustainability within systems. So one of the things, at the end of the book, there's a quite lengthy appendix talking about how this whole body of work has been put together. And a big part of that, as we were working in this particular program that we've created, because as I said, like I'm not only concerned like to intellectualize the word,
Mhm.
but the practicality is extremely important. And so we had the 6 rounds in this program. So we ran this program 6 times, and we've been working with I would say seasoned or mature startups. We had with them in those programs, the leaders from like mature startups. We had from SMEs, a lot of them from SMEs or a few sole traders. They would work for themselves, and also some people that they would have had experience working in the corporate, in the middle management or something like that. So as we were looking into some of these cases, some of the problems are dealing with, I identified that there's this kind of pattern, and a big part of the data, basically, that led me to choose these qualities, these 16 qualities, was that. And then we, in the last round that we were running the program, we actually brought in the sustainability profile tool, and we asked them to actually complete the questionnaire, and we received feedbacks from them as well. Yeah, so we had series of interviews with a number of people amongst the people that they have attended. So yeah, so when we looked into with the team, when we looked into the patterns of dysfunction beyond being, because see, when you mentioned being framework, so with the being framework, we're mainly concerned with the overall performance of a person or a team. So some fundamental qualities that you basically need to have a healthy relationship with in order for you to participate, engage, and perform in life. Things like commitment. What's your relationship with commitment? What's your relationship with anxiety, with confidence, with proactivity, assertiveness, and so on? Responsibility is a big one. But here, while those qualities are quite important, then the question this time was, what would it take for a leader not only to perform, even high performers, but also be capable of building sustainable systems? This is different. As we said, like right from the beginning, you may be a brilliant leader for yourself, but you need to be able to develop leadership. You need to go beyond that. And the reflection of that is going to be seen and experienced in the systems that we create. So um, so therefore, this time the question was like, what qualities are the key to building sustainable systems? And that's basically how all of these qualities were beyond the being conversation. The being discourse basically came up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very impactful, folks, to see yourself in the mirror. It's so impactful.
Mm.
And that's what being did for me. And you see those books behind Ashcam there. Those are the three bodies of work he's concentrated on and has been brilliant in bringing up. And now he's got this new book that I know folks are going to love.
Mm.
Ashcan, this has been a rich conversation around this new work that you are releasing. And I know many leaders out there are going to find tremendous value in this next step for of your work. for those listening, if you want to dive deeper into sustainabilism and learn how to make systems around you more sustainable, join us for the free live on the online book launch on November 15th. It's open to everybody, and it's the best place to explore how you can contribute to creating more authentic, sustainable impact in your teams, organizations, and your communities. And the links will be provided in the show notes so that and we look forward to seeing you at the launch. Now, Ashcan, thank you for all that you do in leadership and in our community. It's very vital. Your work is very vital to the sustainability of what we're doing. And so we thank you. Thank you for being with us. And any last parting words for the audience?
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. It's always very, very good, Enrique, to talk with you. I think that you're really good at contextualizing a big part of like what I do in my body of work and making more accessible to the people that are listening to us. And now the biggest message that I have is, first of all, as Enrique said, like if you're curious and interested in the discussion we just had, like we have the book launch on 15th of November Sydney time, so it needs to be converted for
Yeah.
people joining us from other parts of the board. The link is going to be there, and our aim is to release the beta version of the sustainability tool. So it's now being done at pre-beta version, so that like the people are interested to use the profile assessment tool, measuring their relationship with these 16 qualities being discussed in this book. And so our aim is to launch that right on the book launch as well. So it's going to be limited access at this stage to people. But the biggest message that I have is um, this is not about a pure intellectual body of work. You know, yes, it's a book of like almost 1,200 pages, and there's the tools and the models and everything that is being discussed in that. But in the last two parts of the book, there's 8 parts of the book. In the last 2 parts of the book, part 7 and 8, they basically make it very, very practical. That was the aim. I'm not pretty sure how well it is achieved. Like we had the group of reviewers, obviously, and the people that they have had early access to the book. They contributed through their feedbacks and everything. But my hope is like people benefit, people, organizations, and societies benefiting from what basically we're providing in that. So thank you very much for having me here, Enrique, and thank you very much, everyone, for listening to us.
Absolutely. And I know one listener is going to benefit a lot. We have discussed one listener that will get in the comments and give me their top points from Ashcan's conversation here with us. I will take all the listeners that contribute in that, and then I will select one winner of a book, the release of the book, and we'll get that to you on our side. Thank you all for joining us, and we appreciate you. When get in there, get that free book. We'll see you next time.